Hi guys. We had a bit of a glitch here. Um, but Tim is trying to connect. There. So we're going to wrap up the conversation. There. Yeah, I just apologize right now to the people. Yeah, there was a bit of a techno glitch. I don't know what was going on. I think, yeah, but we're back on now. So we're just gonna wrap up the conversation. Um, yeah. Am I
Okay.
audible? Okay?
Yes, I can hear
Oh,
you clearly.
awesome. Awesome.
This was great. I mean, I really enjoy. I think that if we summarize from my side, I think
Mm,
summarizing the there is a biological underpinning to why patriarchy runs rampant,
yeah.
why the systems of patriarchy, and it's embedded in our instincts. What I want to say is that I think we have fundamentally there is a conflict.
Mm,
There is a conflict between our instincts and what we want as humans and what is consciously the right thing to do. And
mm,
let me be clear about
true.
that quickly as we kind of wrap up. I'll give you let me get real deep as we wrap this up. So
Okay.
I've been writing a lot recently about a concept called arousal non-concordance or arousal incongruence. And this was
Mm,
inspired by the Sajava and Lady Zamar rape case. It was
mm,
inspired by them, but it's not about them. The idea is that it's possible to be turned on physically by someone where you feel aroused and wet, but
mm,
mentally you don't want them
mm,
because you know they're not right for you, but
mm,
physically you're turned on by them. So what happens is we often, for example, in this arousal incongruence, because it's quite complicated. I want to make this clear as we kind of close this conversation
okay.
that when I wake up in the morning and I go to the bathroom and I have an erection, if you're just
Mm,
looking from a distance, you may think that I am sexually ready, but all it is it's an arousal instinct that's blood flow related about urinating. It does not mean I'm interested. And the same thing happens with women a lot, is that you can be out with a guy and the guy starts feeling around and he feels that you're wet, but you're saying no.
mm,
And the point is that the fact that you have physiologically been turned on does not mean you consciously want this person.
mm.
You with me?
Yeah, I'm
And
with you.
so this is often what's happening in the world, that instinctively we may be drawn to masculinity or femininity, but consciously we know it's not the right thing to do.
Mm.
Are you following me?
I'm
That
following.
we
I actually,
in the
sorry to interject. I actually read that piece that you wrote on Twitter. You posted it on Twitter. I think it was in Feb. Also, I think it was in Feb or Jan.
yeah,
But yeah, yeah,
yeah.
I
So
remember that.
the point is this, is that I believe in the workplace we are often drawn to masculine roles and feminine roles. Like
Mm,
I interviewed a female CEO in Cape Town who says that she was at a board meeting,
mm,
and she was at a board meeting and she was the only female, and as a CEO someone asked her to make tea. Now when she went back to
CEO.
interrogate that, when she went back to interrogate it, she said her first instinct was to get up and make tea.
Mm,
And then she actually went ahead and made tea. So she goes
mm,
out, she makes tea, and she serves the guys. And then she called a separate meeting after that
mm,
board meeting to talk about what happened at the previous board meeting.
mm.
And she said she did that because by bringing everybody back together, she wanted to show people how we are drawn to these roles instinctively. Even women at times are drawn instinctively. And so it's important to know that if we're really going to deal with this conversation around patriarchy, we've got to check our instincts. It's
Mm,
possible to be turned on, but not want someone. And
mm,
and this is so important, is that when your biology is telling you, I want to go and have sex with that person, I am super turned on by this person, ask yourself, is this the conscious thing to do? Because we like to
mm,
go, I did a podcast recently where I started to question, what do we have the luxury of just being romantic anymore? The
mm,
romantic idea of going with the flow? Or do
mm,
we have to be a slight more robotic to deal with this gender equality conversation?
mm,
And I would like to leave us to and ask everybody to think about, if you just go with what feels right, you may be attracted to the wrong things. In the workplace, if you go with what feels right, it may feel right to put another woman down if you're a woman, because your
mm,
instincts are saying, I need to be the most powerful woman in the space. If you
mm,
go with what feels right, you may be in a perfectly loyal relationship, but it feels right to go and do it to this other person. And so
mm.
I want us to leave here and go, am I following only what feels right? Am I
Oh.
willing to interrogate what's more consciously responsible? Or am
Mm,
I a person who just follows what feels right?
mm. Sure. Yeah. So one has to learn to reconcile the two, your instinct versus what you really want and what is really right.
Yeah,
And
what's
when you
consciously right, what you've designed in your brain is where I want to go. I have designed in what I call my second brain. My
mm,
second brain says, I need to go in this direction. I need to make sure that we follow up here. I need to make sure I'm loyal here, etc. But then
mm,
when there's a conflict between that brain and my unconscious instincts and what feels right, I've got to have the maturity to step in the middle of those two and have a high level, mature conversation. And very few people are taught to be able to do that, to even understand how to engage that.
ah, yeah. So yeah, I you've really just we've really interrogated this topic vigorously, and it's really good to understand the underlying issue of the whole thing. We just see the symptoms basically, that okay, men are not really on board, but then there's really just layers and layers and deeper aspects to this whole thing of men just not really coming to the party per se, because there are all these gender roles, there are all these other nuances that are physiological, biological, and etc. And yeah, so I guess we need to also just, but how do we now as female movements try to communicate this to our male counterparts, to say that we understand that it's innate of you to act a certain way, but we're not trying to take power from you by uplifting other women, as we said in the beginning, that we are actually running on 500 to 600 year gap. So the males had a head start, and now we are trying to catch up, and not trying to take up their space, but also just to establish ourselves in community, in society, and make a change, because we
So
previously just didn't have that chance to do those things.
here's my recommendation. So what is the Womandla model? The Womandla model could be dialogue, share our experiences as women. Number one. Number
Yeah.
two, publish insights, research about what are the What are the instinctual conflicting reasons why we are experiencing this? 3,
Mm.
design engagement. Design
Mm.
engagement, where we start bringing in young women, young boys, to teach them about the science of what we just discussed. Because
Mm.
if you understand at a deeper instinctual level that there is this conflict between what I feel versus what I know I need to do, then you
Mm.
give the person power, agency to be able to control
Mm.
some of their thoughts and their desires. And then, fourthly, you have a support structure in place where people can go online to learn information. You'd be surprised how many
Mm.
men and women would do the right thing if they actually understood what they were feeling.
Mm. I
If you don't
actually think that's
understand what you're feeling, you just kind of follow it because it feels natural. Like I
so
know
based.
so many people, yeah, I just know so many people who,
Mm.
once they physically understand why they're drawn to something, they can mute it in their instincts.
Mm. Sure. That's true. And you know what, actually, what this live has done, because I'm actually reading the comments as well, and I see that there are a lot of males who've actually joined the live as well, like even the one that got cut before. I can see how they are strongly engaging on this. So basically, I'm agreeing with you on the part where you say that we need to create dialogues and actually have boy children and girl children, and actually involve them in these active conversations as to what their biological and scientific background is and what makes them the way that they are, and
Yes.
and having that dialogue basically. So I remember as far back as primary school. So for instance, if a teacher is gonna talk about reproduction or talk about menstruation or whatever it is, the boys would, because I went to a co-ed school, so the boys would literally be asked to vacate the room so that the teacher can speak to females only. So now, how are they going to understand what happens in a woman's body, what happens, in their adolescence, of which they're supposed to understand those things, because I mean, girls would engage with boys in those sorts of activities, but then girl children are the ones who are mostly say informed about such things, and boys are often left behind.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
it
it's
starts it starts from a young age.
yeah, it starts from a young age, and we have to be more raw and more honest. The last bomb I'm going to drop when it comes to the science of this is
Hmm.
that there was a couple, a happily married couple,
Hmm.
where the woman was raped. They were in a relationship for 10 years. Happily married couple, they were in a relationship for 10 years. She had never orgasmed. She orgasmed she orgasmed for the first time in her rape, when she was raped.
Yeah.
And it created insane levels of guilt in her mind. She hated the experience. She despised this person. Obviously, she knew it was, you know, a
Mm.
violation of the highest order. So
Mm.
she couldn't understand why she experienced it. And understanding how the body can physiologically respond to
Mm.
violent acts, how the body can physiologically respond to traumatic acts, and that it does not have to necessarily coincide with pleasure. And that
Mm.
incongruence that we were speaking about has to be dealt with. And if you can
Mm.
can start sharing this at a very early age, can remove the guilt from young women, from young men, to understand how our bodies can often get in the way of what's socially right, what's consciously right. If we can start that at a very early age, we're going to be on to something powerful. So thank you
Mm.
so much for having me. You guys are stars. I love you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tim. That was very informative. And thank you for everyone who actually actively participated, engaged us on the topic. I guess this is just the beginning, maybe, for us to consider tools as a foundation, as well as just being proactive and yeah, just being proactive about the whole situation and not just dealing with the symptomatic issues that, okay, men do
Yes.
not want to come on board, but then just understanding the biology that makes up what a man is, and try to educate and inform, so that we can actually get better collaborations with our male counterparts. Because yeah, our consistent message, and it remains consistent also in everything that we do, that we are for women and not against men. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank
you
you.
you
Have a
posted
good one. We'll
that.
speak
Sure.
soon, okay? Bye.
Okay, thanks, bye.